Hi, I'm Justin.
Also, I hate the way my voice sounds, so if you can do whatever Photoshop does to voices, make me sound awesome.
And this is my lovely friend,
The beauty in the eyes of the beholder, and it's just about getting into the seat of being the beholder.
Hayley.
I don't think you have to be particularly perceptive. I just think you have to look up.
This podcast is mostly just her telling me stories.
If you expose yourself to the possibility that this might be really awkward, there can be something just really cool on the other side of it.
She thinks that her life and way of looking at things are
Oh, I was kind of waiting on you. I thought you were getting your stuff ready. You're waiting on me?
pretty normal.
You got to edit out all the misinformation about the Amish.
Maybe you can relate.
I would like a chance to re-sing the Amish Paradise.
If you want lighthearted stories
All right, you want to talk about goats?
and stream of consciousness,
I just woke up and needed some friends, and so I bought them.
then you're gonna like the Sunny Side Up podcast.
Sunny side up, sunny side up, sunny side up, sunny side up.
So, if you're at all like me, you may feel that you're living in a world that can be a bit overwhelming and confusing at times. I'm also a huge fan of podcasts, documentaries, docudrama stories, and of just information in general. Between all of that and the social media and news, sometimes our brains can feel like they're on overload. Hayley and I hope that this podcast can be something of an antidote to all of that. Like little jello shots of joy and distraction. None of it is too serious or really too informative. Mostly it's just two friends who have conversational chemistry talking about whatever enters the minds of relatively ADHD people. We hope you enjoy. We're telling a story about, and this happened when, in 2020?
Yes, 2020, Easter, during the month that the pandemic began, when we were all quarantined. This I think it's the second largest tornado to hit North America. It was significant. It was close to that statistic, yeah. But there were actually two at the moment, but they hit the ground and were traveling on the ground for about 90 miles. So the good thing is we had a lot of notice, right? There were only 2 fatalities in our county, which is tremendous considering that it was 2 EF5 tornadoes, a 2.5 mile wide debris trail for one of them. Over 100 homes in our county were significantly damaged, if not destroyed. So we're talking about widespread devastation, just unbelievable. The entire hurricane concentrated into a 2.5 mile wide debris trail.
Wow.
So in the days after the storm, we were driving through the community trying to see where the need was so we could set up relief centers.
And who's we?
We was a nonprofit organization that's based in that community that somehow it was religious in origin and it is definitely faith-driven in nature, but it runs on the energy and the money of just any good-hearted human in the area. So it's like a coordinated effort of everybody just wanting to help, right?
And by the way, if you're a maniacal tornado and you want to just really ruin people's lives, come at the beginning of the biggest outbreak of a biggest pandemic in 100 years, right? That seems because people I don't want to be around people, I need to hide. That's a sadistic timing.
So this was Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
Everybody's at home on Easter Sunday, and you can't go anywhere because we're quarantined. And at that moment, most people kind of respected the term quarantine.
Right.
So everybody is at home.
Wow.
And this tornado is coming, which means get out of your home, evacuate. Where are you going to go?
Yeah.
Everything's locked up and shut. But whenever the tornado is that large, you have to get a running start to get out of the path of a 2.5 mile wide tornado. But we had 90 miles on the ground heads up, which you don't often get with that kind of storm, right?
Fair.
So there were some good things in the middle of this that allowed a lot of people to survive and escape. But when the immediate disaster relief hit the ground and we're talking to people to say, what's the need? Where should we set up shop for the relief supplies and stuff like that? We get to talk to some of the survivors and what their experiences were. The first few days were just trauma, but in the next couple of weeks, people calmed down a little bit, and they were a little more willing to share their experiences, and they actually needed to talk it out a bit. Mm-hmm. We got some fantastic survivor stories because in a county, I don't know what our population is, 80,000
And this
maybe?
is Jones County.
Yeah, 50,000, 80,000.
Jones County in Mississippi.
Yeah, Jones County, Mississippi.
Yeah.
But I believe we only had 2 fatalities during the storm.
Wow.
Which is significant considering the scope of the storm. But one of my favorite survivor stories from those weeks, there was a family, and on this, the yard had 2 homes, and there were about 12 people in the 2. In one of the homes, the storm's coming. The mother grabs her 8-month-old infant, and she bends over to protect the 8-month-old and also shield her unborn baby, which at the time was about 14 weeks gestation. Right?
Wow.
So she's covered and she's bent over. The tornado hits their house, and something hits her in the back. It breaks her backbone, and the tornado sucks the baby out of her arms. And when everything comes to a stop and she looks up, she sees her 8-month-old infant about 70 yards away, like sitting up in a field, only one tiny scratch to even prove this wild ride that he had been on.
70 yards, 210
An 8-month-old sitting up in a field. Yeah. So he survived, and her back is broken.
Wow.
She's pregnant, but she gets to the hospital. She heals. Baby continues to grow. She eventually has this child. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's happy. Everybody survived. Like, it was an amazing story.
That's
and in
nuts.
the other house that was in the same yard, her brother and his wife were in a house, and they had 5 children in the same house, and they're telling me the story about how the storm's coming, and they know they just have a moment. He throws the kids into the smallest room in the house so he can grab a mattress and put it over them. And his wife bends over, like the dryer, washer and dryer unit, flips over her back like it's dangerous, right? Mm-hmm. But he's got the mattress over the kids, so they're safe, these 5 children. Their home is completely decimated, and when everything settles, they come out, and the tethers that were holding their mobile home in place, right, all of them had snapped except for the one tether that was going over the room where they were sheltering their children. And
wow. Was that like they did this on purpose? Because this would be the one really strong tether, or they just, this was...
No,
like
you don't know.
Divine.
You're just like, where's a hallway? Where's a closed-in space where we might can squeeze everybody in for the most structural support around us and yet still get a mattress on. Like, it's that split second that you have. That's why you're supposed to have a plan in place ahead of time. Where's my soup pot to put over my head? Right. Where can I shelter quickly?
I see you do that a lot. Now I get it. When you put a soup pot on your head, you're like, oh, life is too much.
So many good reasons to where if you don't have good tinfoil hat, soup pot, so much more reflective. Keep all the bad thoughts out.
That's so true. The CIA can barely control your thoughts with a soup pot on.
Thank you very much. NSA is only getting what I want the NSA to have.
That's right.
Yes. But
wow.
Like, this family survived, and I was overwhelmed by what they had, but just by the fact that they were surviving. But that's not to say it wasn't difficult for them anyway, because all of a sudden, these 12 people that lived in these homes are now homeless.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing left in that yard. I drove up on it the day after the storm, and we couldn't even tell where the house sites were. Like, it was total loss. They coordinated the long-term recovery efforts. And this family walked into the office one day several months later, and I thought that moment, it was really special to me because I'd been praying for this family from the moment that I heard their story, just praying for recovery, but for restoration because so much was lost. When they came in a few months later, we were working with a nonprofit to try to get homes fixed, homes repaired for people who were either uninsured or underinsured.
Yeah.
Somehow between insurance and FEMA, just a lot of things can still slip through the cracks. Oh, yeah. So the nonprofits step up to try to fill in the gap, and this family comes in, and I get to see all of them in one piece. Baby's born, 8-month-old, now a healthy 1-year-old, happy and all over the place. And I feel like, well, this is a great story. And then a few months roll by, and the nonprofits' efforts have paid off, and a brand new home provided by the donations of storm relief and churches and just area people wanting to help out have come together and built a house for this whole family to come and live under one roof and begin again.
Hello, lovely friends. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And it would mean the world if you would tell other people about this podcast and maybe even spam your social media accounts with just how much you're enjoying it. If you are, of course. Also, commenting and rating us on whatever platform you're downloading or streaming from is incredibly helpful to a little startup podcast like this one. On the other hand, if you are dissatisfied with your listening experience, please leave all of that hate on someone else's podcast. Just maybe to confuse them a little bit, right? But most of all, we hope you keep looking up and looking for the sunny side of life.